Hi, it's Sue. Thanks for joining me for today's Bible reading. I'm reading for March 20th, Judges chapters 6 and 7 today. And I don't think I've mentioned yet, I put a link in the beginning of the YouTube description for the Bible Project overview of the book of Judges. If you want to see a quick outline of this book, it'll help you understand it better. It helps me anyway. All right, chapter 6, verse 1. The children of Israel did that which was evil in Yahweh's sight, and Yahweh delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. The hand of Midian prevailed against Israel, and because of Midian, the children of Israel made themselves the dens which are in the mountains, and the caves, and the strongholds. So it was when Israel had sown that the Midianites, the Amalekites, and the children of the east came up against them. They encamped against them and destroyed the increase of the earth until you come to Gaza. They left no sustenance in Israel, and no sheep, ox, or donkey, for they came up with their livestock and their tents. They came in as locusts for multitude, but they and their camels were without number, and they came in the land to destroy it. Israel was brought very low because of Midian, and the children of Israel cried to Yahweh. When the children of Israel cried to Yahweh because of Midian, Yahweh sent a prophet to the children of Israel, and he said to them, Yahweh says, the God of Israel, I have brought you up from Egypt and brought you out of the house of bondage. I have delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of all who oppressed you, and drove them out from before you, and gave you their land. I said to you, I am Yahweh your God. You shall not fear the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But you have not listened to my voice. Yahweh's angel came and sat under the oak which was in Ophrah, that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite. His son Gideon was beating out wheat in the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. Yahweh's angel appeared to him and said to him, Yahweh is with you, you mighty man of valor. Gideon said to him, O my Lord, if Yahweh is with us, why then has all this happened to us? Where is all his wondrous works which our fathers told us of, saying, didn't Yahweh bring us up from Egypt? Excuse me. But now Yahweh has cast us off and delivered us into the hand of Midian. Yahweh looked at him and said, go in this your might and save Israel from the hand of Midian. Haven't I sent you? He said to him, O Lord, how shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is the poorest in Manasseh, and I am the least of my father's house. Yahweh said to him, surely I will be with you, and you shall strike the Midianites as one man. He said to him, if I now have found favor in your sight, then show me a sign that it is you who talk with me. Please don't go away until I come to you and bring out my present and lay it before you. He said, I will wait until you come back. Gideon went in and prepared a young goat and unleavened cakes of an ephah of meal. He put the meat in the basket, and he put the broth in a pot and brought it out to him under the oak and presented it. The angel of God said to him, take the meat and the unleavened cakes and lay them on this rock and pour out the broth. He did so. Then Yahweh's angel stretched out the end of the staff that is in his hand and touched the meat and the unleavened cakes, and fire went up out of the rock and consumed the meat and the unleavened cakes. Don't you know when Gideon was preparing that food, he was hoping when he went back that the angel wouldn't be there, just so he didn't have to deal with the whole obedience to that scary command? It seemed impossible to him, I'm sure. So, but then when this happened, he's probably glad again. So it says, then Yahweh's angel departed out of his sight. Gideon saw that he was Yahweh's angel, and Gideon said, alas, Lord Yahweh, because I have seen Yahweh's angels face to face. Yahweh's angel face to face. Yahweh said to him, peace be to you. Don't be afraid, you shall not die. Then Gibeon built an altar there to Yahweh and called it Yahweh is peace. To this day it is still in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. That same night Yahweh said to him, take your father's bull, even the second bull 7 years old, and throw down the altar of Baal that your father has, and cut down the Asherah that is by it. Then build an altar to Yahweh your God on top of this stronghold in an orderly way, and take the second bull and offer a burnt offering with the wood of the Asherah which you shall cut down. Wow. Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants and did as Yahweh had spoken to him. Because he feared his father's household and the men of the city, he could not do it by day, but he did it by night. When the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was broken down, and the Asherah was cut down that was by it, and the second bull was offered on the altar that was built. They said to one another, who has done this thing? When they inquired and asked, they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, has done this thing. Then the men of the city said to Joash, bring out your son that he may die, because he has broken down the altar of Baal, and because he has cut down the Asherah that was by it. Joash said to all who stood against him, "Will you contend for Baal, or will you save him? He who will contend for him, let him be put to death by morning. If he is a god, let him contend for himself, because someone has broken down his altar." Therefore on that day he named him Jerubbaal, saying, "Let Baal contend against him, because he has broken down his altar." Then all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the children of the east assembled themselves together, and they passed over and encamped in the valley of Jezreel. But Yahweh's Spirit came on Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, and Abiezer was gathered together to follow him. He sent messengers throughout all Manasseh, and they were also gathered together to follow him. He sent messengers to Asher and to Zebulun and to Naphtali, and they came up to meet them. Gideon said to God, "If you will save Israel by my hand, as you have spoken, behold, I will put a fleece of wool in the threshing floor. If there is dew on the fleece only, and it is dry on the ground, then shall I know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you have spoken." It was so, for he rose early on the next day and pressed the fleece together and wrung the dew out of the fleece, a bowl full of water. Gideon said to God, "Don't let your anger be kindled against me, and I will speak but this once more. Please let me make a trial just once with this fleece. Let it now be dry only on the fleece, and on all the ground let there be dew." God did so that night, for it was dry on the fleece only, and there was dew on all the ground. Chapter 7. Then Zerubbabel, who is Gideon, and all the people who were with him rose up early and encamped beside the spring of Harod. Midian's camp was on the north side of them by the hill of Moreh in the valley. Yahweh said to Gideon, "The people who are with you are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel brag against me, saying, 'My own hand saved me.' Therefore proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, 'Whoever is fearful and trembling, let him return and depart from Mount Gilead.'" So 22,000 of the people returned, and 10,000 remained. Yahweh said to Gideon, "There are still too many people. Bring them down to the water, and I will test them for you there. It shall be that those whom I tell you, 'This shall go with you,' and the same shall go with you, and whoever I tell you, 'This shall not go with you,' the same shall not go." So he brought down the people to the water, and Yahweh said to Gideon, "Everyone who laps of the water with his tongue like a dog laps, you shall set him by himself. Likewise, everyone who bows down on his knees to drink." The number of those who lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, was 300 men, but all the rest of the people bowed down on their knees to drink water. Yahweh said to Gideon, "By the 300 men who lapped, I will save you and deliver the Midianites into your hand. Let all the other people go, each to his own place." So the people took food in their hand and their trumpets, and he sent all the men of Israel, every man to his tent, but retained the 300 men. And the camp of Midian was beneath them in the valley. That same night Yahweh said to him, "Arise, go down into the camp, for I have delivered it into your hand. But if you are afraid to go down, go with Parah your servant down to the camp. You will hear what they say, and afterward your hands will be strengthened to go down into the camp." Then he went down with Parah's servant to the outermost part of the armed men who were in the camp. The Midianites and the Amalekites and all the children of the east lay along the valley like locusts for multitude, and their camels were without number, as the sand which is on the seashore for multitude. When Gideon had come, behold, there was a man telling a dream to his fellow. He said, "Behold, I dreamt a dream, and behold, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the camp of Midian, and came to a tent, and struck it so that it fell, and turned it upside down so that the tent lay flat." His fellow answered, "This is nothing other than the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, the man of Israel. God has delivered Midian into his hand with all the army." It was so, when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and its interpretation, that he worshipped. Then he returned to the camp of Israel and said, "Arise, for Yahweh has delivered the army of Midian into your hand." He divided the 300 men into 3 companies, and put into the hands of them trumpets, empty pitchers with torches within the pitchers. He said to them, "Watch me and do likewise. Behold, when I come to the outermost part of the camp, it shall be that as I do, so you shall do. When I blow the trumpet, I and all who are with me, then blow the trumpet also on every side of the camp, and shout for Yahweh and for Gideon." So Gideon and the 100 men who were with him came to the outermost part of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch, when they had when they had but newly set the watch. Then they blew the trumpets, and broke in pieces the pitchers which were in their hands. The 3 companies blew the trumpets, broke the pitchers, and held the torches left in their left hands, and the trumpets in their right hands with which to blow, and they shouted, "The sword of Yahweh and of Gideon." They each stood in his place around the camp, and all the army ran, and they shouted, and put them to flight. They blew 300 trumpets, and Yahweh set every man's sword against his fellow, and against all the army. And the army fled as far as Beth Shittah toward Zerah, as far as the border of Abel Maholah by Tabith. The men of Israel were gathered together out of Naphtali, out of Asher, and out of all of Manasseh, and pursued Midian. Gideon sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim, saying, Come down against Midian, and take before them the waters, as far as Beth Barah, even the Jordan. So all the men of Ephraim were gathered together and took the waters as far as Beth Barah, even the Jordan. They took the two princes of Midian, Oreb and Zereb. They killed Oreb at Oreb's rock, and Zereb they killed at Zereb's winepress, and pursued Midian. Then they brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon beyond the Jordan. That's it for today's reading. Short and sweet. Thanks for joining me. God bless you. Don't forget to look for the link for the Bible Project overview in the description. Till next time.